everyone. Welcome back to the channel where we bring the most iconic action stories to life. Today we are diving into a true movie story, Detective Conan, One-Eyed Flashback. Detective Conan, One-Eyed Flashback, Japanese, Hepburn, Mitanti Conan Sekigen no Forshabaku, is a 2025 Japanese animated mystery film directed by Katsuya Shigehara in his feature directorial debut. It is the 28th installment of the Case Closed film series based on the manga series of the same name by Gosho Aoyama, following the 2024 film The $1 Million Pentagram, 3. The film was released in Japanese theaters on April 18, 2025. The film grossed 14.67 billion yen in Japan and over $162 million worldwide, becoming the third highest grossing Japanese film of 2025, the 18th highest grossing Japanese film and the 19th highest grossing film released in Japan. It was also the second highest grossing Case Closed film of all time in Japan. The next installment is in development with Ran Mori and Chihaya Hajiwara as main protagonists, releasing 2026. 5. Plot: 10 months ago at Yatsugatake Mountain Range, during the pursuit of Michiria Satakuni, a suspect in the gun store robbery case 8 years ago who disappeared while on parole, Inspector Yamato Kensuke of Nagano Prefectural Police was shot near his left eye. He was soon caught in an avalanche but was rescued, though with injury to his left eye and without memory of the incident. At the present day, Yamato and Detective Yui Uehara investigated a break-in to the Nobayama Radio Observatory. Meanwhile, Kagoro was contacted by Koji Samatani, his former colleague during his time in the police force. The two discussed the avalanche incident and the pursuit by Kensuke, and Samatani expressed interest to meet Kagoro in person. However, at the meeting point, Samatani was fatally shot. Unwilling to let go of his grief of leaving his friend to death, Kagoro joined Detectives Sato and Takagi to Nagano to search for more clues. At Nagano, Kagoro, Sato, and Takagi met with Kensuke, Yui, Inspector Takaaki Morofushi and Detective Hayashi Itsunabo from Yamanashi Prefectural Police. They also met Izo Funakubo, father of Maki Funakubo, former biathlete who committed suicide following the injuries suffered by the gun shop robbery incident. The police discovered that Samatani had earlier visited Satakuni, who was imprisoned as a result of the plea bargain the police made with Takashi Washizu, another suspect of the robbery case. Washizu was given parole but escaped. Having noticed the involvement of Yuya Kazami, assistant inspector from Public Security Bureau, and the bug planted with him, Conan, who went to Nagano with Ran, asked Ray Furuya for guidance with the investigation and deduced that this case must have involved PSB officer acting undercover in various agencies, and that Hayashi is also an undercover agent for the PSB. The same night, while driving to the site of shooting incident, Yui and Kensuke were ambushed, but the culprit was forced to retreat thanks to the effort of Mitsuhiko, Genta, and Ran. Yui, Kensuke, and Morofushi took shelter at the nearby Chapel Brunner hut of Takashi Otomo, while other personnel were deployed to search the mountain range under supervision of Ritual Hasebi, prosecutor of Tokyo District Prosecution Office, who went to Nagano to personally investigate the matter. However, the culprit is nowhere to be found. The next morning, while descending the mountain, the Nagano police was ambushed again. Morofushi, in an attempt to push Tensuke out of the culprit's sight, plunged into freezing water but was later rescued. Conan and other police officers took shelter at Otomo's hut, but discovered that the culprit attempted to use the device in Otomo's hut to generate avalanche to bury them. Conan and most of the officers managed to take shelter after generating avalanche from other direction to counter the first avalanche, but Kensuke was apparently unable to take shelter in time, and it was reported that he is dead. At dusk, Conan provided information that reveals that Takashi Otomo is in fact Takashi Washizu, the escaped suspect of the robbery incident that leads to Maki's death. At Nobayama Observatory, it is also revealed that the culprit of the shooting incident is Detective Hayashi. Hayashi is the lover of Maki who resents Mercuria and Takashi for causing the death of Maki, and that he opposed the passing of law that will strengthen the plea bargain procedure. Having heard that Semitani, another undercover PSB agent, seeks to reopen the case involving Kensuke to support the deliberation of the law, Hayashi killed Semitani and tried to murder Kensuke before Kensuke can retain information that could incriminate him. In addition, Hayashi also used the antenna of the observatory to intercept military intelligence from satellites and use the information to force the Japanese government to suspend the deliberation of the law. Hasabi then revealed that he is an officer of Cabinet Satellite Intelligence Center who participated in the investigation. It was also revealed that Yamato's death was faked with the assistance of Kazami in order to put Yamato out of harm's way. Hayashi attempted to escape, but the combined effort of Hybra, Professor Yutaka Oki at the observatory, Conan, Kagoro, Ran and the police allows Hayashi to be captured. In the post-credits scene, For Real appeared before Hayashi and offered him the plea bargain, a penalty reduction from death sentence to life imprisonment in return for not disclosing the involvement of the PSB. Hayashi is enraged, but is also reminded that if he chooses to expose the PSB, his status as Maki's lover will be revealed and public perception towards Maki and Enzo will plunge. The Nagano police discussed with each other at the hospital, where Yui noted that Conan already informed her that Kensuke is alive. Morifushi believed that Conan is being considerate towards Yui, and while Kensuke criticized Yui for overreacting for the loss of colleague, Yui replied that the reaction may be simply beyond the working relationship. Hepburn, Romanized, Kiban Shiki Romaji, lit. Hepburn-style Roman letters, is the main system of romanization for the Japanese language. The system was originally published in 1867 by American Christian missionary and physician James Curtis Hepburn as the standard in the first edition of his Japanese-English dictionary. The system is distinct from other romanization methods in its use of English orthography to phonetically transcribe sounds. For example, the syllable in 1886, Hepburn published the third edition of his dictionary, codifying a revised version of the system that is known today as Traditional Hepburn. A version with additional revisions, known as the Modified Hepburn, was published in 1908. Although Kunriashiti is the style favored by the Japanese government, Hepburn remains the most popular method of Japanese romanization. It is learned by most foreign students of the language, and is used within Japan for romanizing personal names, locations, and other information, such as train tables and roadsides. Because the system's orthography is based on English phonology instead of a systematic transcription of the Japanese syllabary, individuals who do not speak Japanese and know English phonology will generally be more accurate when pronouncing unfamiliar words romanized in the Hepburn style compared to other systems. In 1867, American Presbyterian missionary Dr. James Curtis Hepburn published the first Japanese-English dictionary, in which he introduced a new system for the romanization of Japanese into Latin script. 2. He published a second edition in 1872 and a third edition in 1886, which introduced minor changes. 3. The third edition's system had been adopted in the previous year by the Ramajakai, a group of Japanese and foreign scholars who promoted a replacement of the Japanese script with a Romanized system. 4. Hepburn romanization, loosely based on the conventions of English orthography, spelling, stood in opposition to Nihonshiki, which had been developed in Japan in 1881 as a script replacement. 4. Compared to Hepburn, Nihonshiki is more systematic in its representation of the Japanese syllabary, kana, as each symbol corresponds to a phoneme. 5. However, the notation requires further explanation for accurate pronunciation by non-Japanese speakers, for example, the syllables ci and tca, which are written as sure and chine Hepburn, are rendered as si and taya in Nihonshiki. 4. After Nihonshiki was presented to the Romaji Kai in 1886, a dispute began between the supporters of the two systems, which resulted in a standstill and an eventual halt to the organization's activities in 1892. In 1930, a special Romanization study commission, headed by the Minister of Education, was appointed by the government to devise a standardized form of Romanization. 5. The commission eventually decided on a slightly modified, compromise version of Nihonshiki, which was chosen for official use by Cabinet Ordinance on September 21, 1937. This system is known today as Kunrei-shiki. 5. On September 3, 1945, at the beginning of the occupation of Japan after World War II, Supreme Commander for the Allied powers Douglas MacArthur issued a directive mandating the use of modified Hepburn by occupation forces. 7. The directive had no legal force, however, and a revised version of Kunrei-shiki was reissued by Cabinet Ordinance on December 9, 1954, after the end of occupation. 8. Although it lacks de jure status, Hepburn remains the de facto standard for multiple applications in Japan. 9. As of 1977, many government organizations used Hepburn, including the Ministry of International Trade and Industry. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs requires the use of Hepburn on passports, and the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport requires its use on transport signs, including road signs and railway station signs. 10. According to a survey by the Japanese Agency for Cultural Affairs in 2022, the Japanese primarily use Hepburn to spell place names. 11. 12. Hepburn is also used by private organizations, including the Japan Times and the Japan Travel Bureau. 13. American National Standard System for the Romanization of Japanese, Hansi Z 39.11-1972, based on modified Hepburn, was approved in 1971 and published in 1972 by the American National Standards Institute. 14. In 1989, it was proposed for International Organization for Standardization, ISO, Standard 3602, but was rejected in favor of Kunrei-shiki. Citation needed. Hansi Z 39.11-1972 was deprecated as a standard in 1994. 14. In January 2024, the Cultural Affairs Agency proposed revising the 1954 Cabinet Ordinance to make Hepburn the standard Romanization system of Japan. 15. On December 16, 2025, the Japanese government decided to issue a cabinet notification on December 22 revising national rules on Romanization for the first time in about 70 years, making the Hepburn system the standard instead of Kunrei-shiki. 16. Variants. Former Japan National Railways, Style Board of Toyooka Station. For the two adjacent stations, Jembot follows the Hepburn Romanization system, but Kokuhul follows both the Nihonshiki and Kunrei-shiki systems. There are many variants of the Hepburn Romanization. The two most common styles are as follows. Traditional Hepburn, as defined in various editions of Hepburn's Dictionary, with the third edition, 1886, 17, often considered authoritative, 18, although changes in kana usage must be accounted for. It is characterized by the rendering of syllabic n as m before the consonants b, n, and p, for example, shimbashi for. Modified Hepburn, also known as revised Hepburn, in which, among other changes, the rendering of syllabic n as m before bilabial consonants is no longer used. Shinbashi-fua. The version of the system published in the third, 1954, and later editions of Kinjusha's New Japanese-English Dictionary are often considered authoritative. It was adopted in 1989 by the Library of Congress as one of its ALALC romanizations, 14, and is the most common variant of Hepburn romanization used today, 19. In Japan itself, there are some variants officially mandated for various uses. The main feature of Hepburn is that its orthography is based on English phonology. More technically, when syllables that are constructed systematically according to the Japanese syllabary contain an unstable consonant in the modern spoken language, the orthography is changed to something that better matches the real sound as an English speaker would pronounce it. For example, is written sho not asai. This transcription is thus only partly phonological. Some linguists such as Harold E. Palmer, Daniel Jones, and Otto Jesperson object to Hepburn, contending that the pronunciation-based spellings can obscure the systematic origins of Japanese phonetic structures, inflections, and conjugations. 26. Since the vowel sounds in Hepburn are similar to the vowel sounds in Italian, and the consonants similar to those of many other languages, in particular English, speakers unfamiliar with Japanese will generally be more accurate when pronouncing unfamiliar words romanized in the Hepburn style compared to other systems. Anime, Japanese, IPA, A9, wink with the front A, derived from a shortening of the English word animation, is animation originating from Japan. Outside Japan and in English, anime refers specifically to animation produced in Japan. 1. However, anime, in Japan and in Japanese, describes all animated works, regardless of style or origin. Many works of animation with a similar style to Japanese animation are also produced outside Japan. Video games sometimes also feature themes and art styles that may be labeled as anime. The earliest commercial Japanese animation dates to 1917. A characteristic art style emerged in the 1960s with the works of cartoonist Osamu Tezuka and spread in the following decades, developing a large domestic audience. Anime is distributed theatrically, through television broadcasts, directly to home media, and over the Internet. In addition to original works, anime are often adaptations of Japanese comics, manga, light novels, or video games. It is classified into numerous genres targeting various broad and niche audiences, too. Anime is a diverse medium with distinctive production methods that have adapted in response to emergent technologies. Predominantly hand-drawn, even into the modern day, anime combines graphic art, characterization, cinematography, and other forms of imaginative and individualistic techniques. 3. Compared to Western animation, anime production generally focuses less on movement and more on the detail of settings and use of camera effects, such as panning, zooming, and angle shots. 4. Diverse art styles are used, and character proportions and features can be quite varied, with a common characteristic feature being large and emotive eyes. 4. The anime industry consists of over 430 production companies, including major studios such as Studio Ghibli, Kyoto Animation, Sunrise, Bones, Ufotable, Mappa, Wit Studio, Comics Wave Films, Madhouse Incorporated, TMS Entertainment, Studio Pierrot, Production I.G, Nippon Animation, and Toei Animation. Since the 1980s, the medium has also seen widespread international success with the rise of foreign dubbed and subtitled programming, and since the 2010s due to the rise of streaming services and a widening demographic embrace of anime culture, both within Japan and worldwide. 5. 6. As of 2016, Japanese animation accounted for 60% of the world's animated television shows. 7. By 2022, anime had become one of the fastest-growing genres of content globally. 8. The medium is currently characterized by increased globalization, expansive cross-cultural collaboration, and significant brand integration, as Japanese-produced animation continues to influence and shape media and popular culture on a global scale. 9. Etymology. 2006 Wikipedia mascot Wakana portrayed in various anime art styles. As a type of animation, anime is an art form that comprises many genres found in other mediums. It is sometimes mistakenly classified as a genre itself. 10. In Japanese, the term anime is used to refer to all animated works, regardless of style or origin. 11. English language dictionaries typically define anime, 12, as a style of Japanese animation. 13. Or as a style of animation originating in Japan. 14. Other definitions are based on origin, making production in Japan a requisite for a work to be considered anime. 15. The etymology of the word anime is disputed. The English word animation is written in Japanese katakana as animation and as anime, pronounced de.ni.me, in its shortened form. 15. Some sources claim that the term is derived from the French term for animation dessin anime, cartoon, literally, animated drawing, 16. But others believe this to be a myth derived from the popularity of anime in France in the late 1970s and 1980s. 15. In English, anime, when used as a common noun, normally functions as a mass noun. For example, do you watch anime? Or, how much anime have you watched? 17. 18. As with a few other Japanese words, such as sake and Pokemon, English texts sometimes spell anime, as in French, with an acute accent over the final E, to cue the reader to pronounce the letter, not to leave it silent as English orthography may suggest. Prior to the widespread use of anime, the term Japanimation, a portmanteau of Japan and animation, was prevalent throughout the 1970s and 1980s. In the mid-1980s, the term anime began to supplant Japanimation wink with a frown. 19. In general, the latter term now only appears in period works where it is used to distinguish and identify Japanese animation. Imakimono and shadow plays, kagei, are considered precursors to Japanese animation. 21. The makimono was a common form of entertainment in the 11th century. Traveling storytellers narrated legends and anecdotes while the imakimono was unrolled from the right to left in chronological order, as a moving panorama. 21. Kagei was popular during the Edo period and originated from the shadow plays of China. 21. Magic lanterns from the Netherlands were also popular in the 18th century. 21. The paper play called kamishibai surged in the 12th century and remained popular in street theater until the 1930s. 21. Puppets of the Bunraku Theater and ukiyo-e prints are considered ancestors of characters of most Japanese animation. 21. Finally, manga was a heavy inspiration for anime. Cartoonists Kitsuo Rakuten and Okamoto Ippei used film elements in their strips. 21. Pioneers. Duration, 4 minutes and 19 seconds. 4 to 19. Namakoro Katana, 1917, the oldest surviving Japanese animated short film made for cinemas. Animation in Japan began in the early 20th century, when filmmakers started to experiment with techniques pioneered in France, Germany, the United States, and Russia. 22. A claim for the earliest Japanese animation is Kitsuro Shoshin, c. 1907, 23. A private work by an unknown creator. 24. In 1917, the first professional and publicly displayed works began to appear. animators such as Oten Shimokawa, Satoru Kitayama, and Junichi Kauchi, known as the fathers of anime, produced numerous films, with the oldest surviving one being Kauchi's Namakuo Katana, 25. Many early works were lost in the destruction of Shimokawa's warehouse during the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake, 26. By the mid-1930s, animation was well established in Japan as an alternative format to live-action works. It suffered competition from foreign producers, such as Disney, and many animators, including Nobuo Ofuji and Yasuji Murata, continued to work with cheaper cutout animation rather than cell animation. 27. Other creators, including Kenzo Masaka and Mitsuyo Seo, nevertheless made great strides in technique, benefiting from the patronage of the government, which employed animators to produce educational shorts and propaganda. 28. In 1940, the government dissolved several artists' organizations to form the Shin Nippon Mangaka Kyokai. B. 29. The first talkie anime was Chikara to Ana no Yo no Naka, 1933, a short film produced by Masaka. 30. 31. The first feature-length anime film was Momotaro, Sacred Sailors, 1945, produced by Seo with a sponsorship from the Imperial Japanese Navy. 32. The 1950s saw a proliferation of short, animated advertisements created for television. 33. Modern era. Frame from the opening sequence of Osamu Tezuka's 1963 TV series Astro Boy. In the 1960s, manga artist and animator Osamu Tezuka adapted and simplified Disney animation techniques to reduce costs and limit frame counts in his productions. 34. Originally intended as temporary measures to allow him to produce material on a tight schedule with inexperienced staff, many of his limited animation practices came to define the medium's style. 35. Three Tales. 1960 was the first anime film broadcast on television. Wink with a frown. 36. The first anime television series was Instant History, 1961. 64. 37. An early and influential success was Astro Boy, 1963-66, a television series directed by Tezuka based on his manga of the same name. Many animators at Tezuka's Mushi Production later established major anime studios, among those being Madhouse, Sunrise, and Studio Pierrot. The 1970s saw growth in the popularity of manga, many of which later received animated adaptations. Tezuka's work, and that of other pioneers in the field, inspired characteristics and genres that remain fundamental elements of anime today. The giant robot genre, also known as mecha, for instance, took shape under Tezuka, developed into the super robot genre under Go Nagai and others, and was revolutionized at the end of the decade by Yoshiyuki Tomino, who developed the real robot genre. 38. Robot anime series such as Gundam, Space Runaway Idion, 39, and Super Dimension Fortress Macross were influential classics in the 1980s, and the genre remained one of the most popular in the following decades. 40. The bubble economy of the 1980s spurred a new era of high-budget and experimental anime films, including Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, 1984, Royal Space Force, The Wings of Hanyamais, 1987, and Akira, 1988. 41. Experimental anime titles continued to draw attention in the 1990s, as Neon Genesis Evangelion, 1995, Ghost in the Shell, 1995, and Cowboy Bebop, 1998, garnered international popularity. During this period, anime began attracting greater interest in Western countries. Other international successes include Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z, both of which were dubbed into more than a dozen languages worldwide. In 2003, Spirited Away, a Studio Ghibli feature film directed by Hayao Miyazaki, won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Academy Awards. It later became the highest-grossing anime film, grossing more than $355 million worldwide. Since the 2000s, an increased number of anime works have been adaptations of light novels and visual novels. Successful examples include The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya and Fate/Stay Night, both 2006. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba the movie, Mugen Train became the highest-grossing Japanese film and one of the world's highest-grossing films of 2020, 42-43. It also became the fastest-grossing film in Japanese cinema history, running 10 billion yen, $95.3 million, 72 million pounds, in 10 days, 43. It beat the previous record holder Spirited Away, which took 25 days to gross the same amount, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47. In 2021, the anime adaptations of Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba and Tokyo Revengers were among the top 10 most discussed TV shows worldwide on Twitter, 48, 49. In 2022, Attack on Titan won the award of Most In-Demand TV Series in the World 2021 at the Global TV Demand Awards. Attack on Titan became the first-ever non-English language series to earn the title of World's Most In-Demand TV Show, previously held by only The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. 50. In 2024, Jujutsu Kaisen broke the Guinness World Record for the most in-demand animated TV show, with a global demand rating 71.2 times than that of the average TV show, previously held by Attack on Titan. 51. 52. Attributes. Anime artists employ many distinct visual styles. Clockwise from the top left, Dead Leaves, Flag, Serial Experiments Lane, Monster, Mind Game, Lucky Star, Cat Soup, and Gurren Lagann. Anime differs from other forms of animation with its art styles, methods of animation, production, and process. Visually, anime works exhibit a wide variety of art styles, differing between creators, artists, and studios. 53. While no single art style predominates anime as a whole, they do share some similar attributes in terms of animation technique and character design. Anime is fundamentally characterized by the use of limited animation, flat expression, the suspension of time, its thematic range, the presence of historical figures, its complex narrative line and, above all, a peculiar drawing style, with characters characterized by large and oval eyes, with very defined lines, bright colors, and reduced movement of the lips. 54, 55. Technique. Modern anime follows a typical animation production process, involving storyboarding, voice acting, character design, and cell production. Since the 1990s, animators have increasingly used computer animation to improve the efficiency of the production process. Early anime works were experimental and consisted of images drawn on blackboards, stop-motion animation of paper cutouts, and silhouette animation. 56, 57. Cell animation grew in popularity until it came to dominate the medium. In the 21st century, the use of other animation techniques is mostly limited to independent short films. 58. Including the stop-motion puppet animation work produced by Tadahito Matsunaga, Kihachiro Kawamoto, and Tomoyasu Murata. 59. 60. Computers were integrated into the animation process in the 1990s, with works such as Ghost in the Shell, 1995, and Princess Mononoke, 1997, mixing cell animation with computer-generated imagery. 61. Fujifilm, a major cell production company, announced it would cease cell production, causing an industry panic to procure cell imports and hastening the switch to digital processes. 61. Prior to the digital era, Anime was produced with traditional animation methods using a pose-to-pose approach. 56. The majority of mainstream anime uses fewer expressive keyframes and more in-between animation. 62. Japanese animation studios were pioneers of many limited animation techniques, and have given anime a distinct set of conventions. Unlike Disney animation, where the emphasis is on the movement, anime emphasizes the art quality and lets limited animation techniques make up for the lack of time spent on movement. Such techniques are often used not only to meet deadlines but also as artistic devices. 63. Anime scenes often place emphasis on achieving three-dimensional views, and backgrounds are instrumental in creating the atmosphere of the work. 22. The backgrounds are not always purely fictional and are occasionally based on real locations, as exemplified in Howl's Moving Castle and The Melancholy of Hiroi Suzumiya. 64. Better source needed. John Oppiger stated that anime is one of the rare mediums where putting together an all-star cast usually comes out looking tremendously impressive. 65. The cinematic effects of anime differentiates itself from the stage plays found in American animation. Anime is cinematically shot as if by camera, including panning, zooming, and distance and angle shots to more complex dynamic shots that would be difficult to produce in reality. 66, 67, 68. In anime, the animation is almost always produced before the voice acting, contrary to American animation, where the voice acting typically comes first. 69. Characters. Anime character design is diverse, but often incorporates common elements depending on the target demographic and era. These are representative samples. Clockwise from the top left, Ashita no Joe, 1970, Macross, Do You Remember Love? 1984, Ghost in the Shell, 1995, K-On! 2009, Your Name, 2016, The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter, 2021, Fruits Basket, 2001, and Rurouni Kenshin, 1996. The body proportions of human anime characters tend to accurately reflect the proportions of the human body in reality. The height of the head is usually considered by the artist as the base unit of proportion. Head-to-height ratios vary drastically by art style, with most anime characters falling between 5 and 8 heads tall. Anime artists occasionally make deliberate modifications to body proportions to produce chibi characters that feature a disproportionately small body compared to the head. Many chibi characters are 2 to 4 heads tall. Some anime works like Crayon Shin-chan completely disregard these proportions in such a way that they resemble caricatured Western cartoons. Hair in anime is often unnaturally lively and colorful or uniquely styled. The movement of hair in anime is exaggerated, and hair actions are used to emphasize the action and emotions of characters for added visual effect. 75. Artist Gillis Portress traces hairstyle color to cover illustrations on manga, where eye-catching artwork and colorful tones are considered appealing for children's manga. 75. Some anime will depict non-Japanese characters with specific ethnic features, such as a pronounced nose and jutting jaw for European characters. 76. In other cases, anime feature characters whose ethnicity or nationality is not always defined, and this is often a deliberate decision, such as in the Pokemon animated series. Anime are often classified by target demographic, including children's, kodomo, girls, shoujo, boys, shounen, young men, seinen, young women, josei, and the diverse range of genres targeting an adult audience. Shoujo and shounen anime sometimes contain elements popular with children of all genders in an attempt to gain crossover appeal. Adult anime may feature a slower pace or greater plot complexity that younger audiences may typically find unappealing, as well as adult themes and situations. 86. A subset of adult anime works featuring pornographic elements are labeled R18 in Japan, and are internationally known as hentai, originating from the Japanese word for pervert, hentai. By contrast, some anime subgenres incorporate eki, sexual themes, or undertones without depictions of sexual intercourse, as typified in the comedic or harem genres. Due to its popularity among adolescent and adult anime enthusiasts, the inclusion of such elements is considered a form of fan service. 87, 88. Some genres explore homosexual romances, such as yaoi, male homosexuality, and yuri, female homosexuality. While often used in a pornographic context, the terms yaoi and yuri can also be used broadly in a wider context to describe or focus on the themes or the development of the relationships themselves. 89. Anime's genre classification differs from other types of animation and does not lend itself to simple classification. 90. Gillis Portress compared the labeling of Gundam 0080 and its complex depiction of war as a giant robot anime akin to simply labeling War and Peace a war novel. 90. Science fiction is a major anime genre and includes important historical works like Tezuka's Astro Boy and Yokoyama's Tetsujin 28 Go. A major subgenre of science fiction is mecha, with the Gundam Mena series being iconic. 91. The diverse fantasy genre includes works based on Asian and Western traditions and folklore. Examples include the Japanese feudal fairy tale Inuyasha, and the depiction of Scandinavian goddesses who moved to Japan to maintain a computer called Yggdrasil in A. My Goddess. 92. Genre crossing in anime is also prevalent, such as the blend of fantasy and comedy in Dragon Half, and the incorporation of slapstick humor in the crime anime film Castle of Cagliostro. 93. Other subgenres found in anime include magical girl, harem, sports, martial arts, literary adaptations, medievalism. 94. And war. 95. Formats. Early anime works were made for theatrical viewing, and required played musical components before sound and vocal components were added to the production. In 1958, Nippon Television aired Megura no Abankuru, Mole's Adventure, both the first televised and first color anime to debut. 96. It was not until the 1960s when the first televised series were broadcast, and it has remained a popular medium since. 97. Works released in a direct-to-video format are known as original video animations, OVAs, or original animation videos, OAVs, and are typically not released theatrically or televised prior to home media release. 98. 99. Better source needed. The emergence of the Internet has led some animators to distribute works online in a format called Original Net Animation, ONA. 100. Better source needed. The home distribution of anime releases was popularized in the 1980s with the VHS and Laserdisc formats. 98. The VHS NTSC video format used in both Japan and the United States is credited with aiding the rising popularity of anime in the 1990s. 98. The Laserdisc and VHS formats were transcended by the DVD format, which offered unique advantages, including multiple subtitling and dubbing tracks on the same disc. 101. The DVD format also had its drawbacks in its usage of region coding, adopted by the industry to combat licensing, piracy and exporting, as well as usage in restricted regions indicated on the DVD player. 101. The video CD, VCD, format was popular in Hong Kong and Taiwan, but became only a minor format in the United States that was closely associated with bootleg copies. 101. Whereas many American television series had an episodic format, with each episode typically consisting of a self-contained story, anime series, such as Dragon Ball Z, had a serialization format, where continuous story arcs stretch over multiple episodes or seasons, thus distinguishing them from traditional American shows. Serialization has since also become a common characteristic of American streaming television shows during the Golden Age of Television era. 102. Industry. See also, List of anime companies and List of Japanese animation studios. The Akihabara district of Tokyo is popular with anime and manga fans, as well as with the otaku subculture in Japan. The animation industry consists of more than 430 production companies, with some of the major and most prominent studios including Toei Animation, Madhouse, Gonzo, Sunrise, Bones, TMS Entertainment, Nippon Animation, PA Works, Studio Pierrot, Production I.G, Ufotable, and Studio Ghibli. 103. Many of the studios are organized into a trade association, the Association of Japanese Animations. There is also a labor union for workers in the industry, the Japanese Animation Creators Association. Studios will often work together to produce more complex and costly projects, as done with Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. 103. An anime episode can cost between $100,000 and $300,000 to produce. 104. In 2001, animation accounted for 7% of the Japanese film market, above the 4.6% market share for live-action works. 103. The popularity and success of anime is seen through the profitability of the DVD market, contributing nearly 70% of total sales. 103. According to a 2016 article on Nikkei Asian Review, Japanese television stations have bought over 60 billion yen worth of anime from production companies over the past few years, compared with under 20 billion yen from overseas. 105. There has been a rise in sales of shows to television stations in Japan, caused by late-night anime with adults as the target demographic. 105. This type of anime is less popular outside Japan, being considered more of a niche product. 105. Spirited Away, 2001, was the all-time highest-grossing film in Japan until it was overtaken by Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie, Mugen Train in 2020. 106. 107. 108. It was also the highest-grossing anime film worldwide until it was overtaken by Makoto Shinkai's 2016 film Your Name. 109. Anime films represent a large part of the highest-grossing Japanese films yearly in Japan, with 6 out of the top 10 in 2014, 2015, and 2016. Anime has to be licensed by companies in other countries in order to be legally released. While anime has been licensed by its Japanese owners for use outside Japan since at least the 1960s, the practice became well established in the United States in the late 1970s to early 1980s, when such TV series as Dachumen and Captain Harlock were licensed from their Japanese parent companies for distribution in the American market. The trend towards American distribution of anime continued into the 1980s with the licensing of titles such as Voltron and the creation of new series such as Robotech through the use of source material from several original series. 110. In the early 1990s, several companies began to experiment with the licensing of less child-oriented material. Some, such as AD Vision and Central Park Media and its imprints, achieved fairly substantial commercial success and went on to become major players in the now very lucrative American anime market. Others, such as Animigo, achieved limited success. Many companies created directly by Japanese parent companies did not do as well, most releasing only 1 or 2 titles before completing their American operations. Citation needed. Licenses are expensive, often costing hundreds of thousands of dollars for one series and tens of thousands for one movie. 111. The prices vary widely. For example, Jinti, Extend costed only $91,000 to license, while Corral Phantom Memory costed $960,000, 111. Simulcast internet streaming rights can be cheaper, with prices around $1,000 to $2,000 an episode, 112, but can also be more expensive, with some series costing more than $200,000 per episode, 113. The anime market for the United States was worth approximately $2.74 billion in 2009, 114. Dubbed animation began airing in the United States in 2000 on networks like the WB and Cartoon Network's Adult Swim, 115. In 2005, this resulted in 5 of the top 10 anime titles having previously aired on Cartoon Network. 115. As a part of localization, some editing of cultural references may occur to better follow the references of the non-Japanese culture. 116. The cost of English localization averages $10,000 per episode. 117. The industry has been subject to both praise and condemnation for fansubs. The addition of unlicensed and unauthorized subtitled translations of anime series or films. 118. Fansubs, which were originally distributed on bootleg VHS cassettes in the 1980s, have been freely available and disseminated online since the 1990s. 118. Since this practice raises concerns for copyright and piracy issues, fansubbers tend to adhere to an unwritten moral code to destroy or no longer distribute an anime once an officially translated or subtitled version becomes licensed. They also try to encourage viewers to buy an official copy of the release once it comes out in English, although fansubs typically continue to circulate through file-sharing networks. 119. Even so, the laid-back regulations of the Japanese animation industry tend to overlook these issues, allowing it to grow underground and thus increasing its popularity until there is a demand for official high-quality releases for animation companies. This has led to an increase in global popularity of Japanese animation, reaching $40 million in sales in 2004. 120. Fansub practices have rapidly declined since the early 2010s due to the advent of legal streaming services which simulcast new anime series, often within a few hours of their domestic release. 121. Since the 2010s, anime has become a global multi-billion-dollar industry, setting a sales record in 2017 of 2.15 trillion yen, $19.8 billion, driven largely by demand from overseas audiences. 122. In 2019, Japan's anime industry was valued at $24 billion a year, with 48% of that revenue coming from overseas, which is now its largest industry sector. 123. By 2025, the anime industry is expected to reach a value of $30 billion, with over 60% of that revenue coming from overseas. 124. Markets. The Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO, valued the domestic anime market in Japan at 2.4 trillion yen, $24 billion, including 2 trillion yen from licensed products. In 2005, 125, JETRO reported sales of overseas anime exports in 2004 to be 2 trillion yen, $18 billion. 126. JETRO valued the anime market in the United States at 520 billion yen, $5.2 billion, 125, including $500 million in home video sales and over $4 billion from licensed products. In 2005, 127, JETRO projected in 2005 that the worldwide anime market, including sales of licensed products, would grow to 10 trillion yen, $100 billion. 125. 127, the anime market in China was valued at $21 billion in 2017, 128, and was projected to reach $31 billion by 2020, 129. In Europe, the anime merchandising market was valued at about $950 million, with the figurine segment accounting for most of the share, and is expected to reach a value of over $2 billion by 2030, 130. The global anime market size was valued at $26.055 billion in 2021, with 29% of the revenue coming from merchandise. It is expected that the global anime market will reach a value of $47.14 billion by 2028, 131, 132. In 2023, the anime industry generated $19.8 billion in total global revenue, including $5.5 billion from streaming and $14.3 billion from merchandise sales. North America and Asia contributed a combined $14.3 billion in total revenue, accounting for over 72% of anime's global impact, 133, 134. By 2030, the global anime market is expected to reach a value of $48.3 billion, with the largest contributors to this growth being North America, Europe, Asia, Pacific, and the Middle East. 135. The global anime market size was valued at $25.8 billion in 2022 and is expected to increase to $62.7 billion by 2032, with a CAGR of 9.4%. 136, 137, 138. In 2019, the annual overseas exports of Japanese animation exceeded $10 billion for the first time in history, 139. According to Dentsu's 2025 Global Research Report, Anime, a growing opportunity for brands, data collected between October 2024 and March 2025 from 8,600 consumers across 10 countries, the United States, United Kingdom, Poland, Spain, France, Italy, Japan, China, Indonesia, and Thailand, showed that the anime fandom is continuing to expand markedly worldwide. Globally, 3 in 10 consumers reported watching anime weekly, with that proportion rising to 50% among Gen Z viewers. In Southeast Asia in particular, enthusiasm is strong. In Thailand, nearly one-third, 31%, of anime viewers spent over $200 on merchandise in the past year, while in Indonesia the figure is about 23%. Moreover, in Indonesia about 1 in 5 Gen Z anime fans say they post about anime on social platforms or participate in anime-related Discord communities, indicating high active engagement rather than passive consumption. In the EMEA markets surveyed, UK, France, Spain, Italy, Poland, around 20% in France and 19% in Italy of respondents report watching anime weekly. In the United States, the global survey found that 40% of anime consumers reported spending more than $200 on related merchandise over the past year, with Netflix identified as the most widely used platform for anime viewing in the country alongside Europe and parts of Asia. 140. Awards. The anime industry hosts several annual awards that honor the year's best works. Major annual awards in Japan include the Ofuji Noburo Award, the Mainichi Film Award for Best Animation Film, the Animation Kobe Awards, the Japan Media Arts Festival Animation Awards, the CU Awards for Voice Actors, the Tokyo Anime Award, and the Japan Academy Prize for Animation of the Year. Internationally, anime TV series and films compete in shows such as the Crunchyroll Anime Awards and the Astra Awards. There were also the American Anime Awards, which were designed to recognize excellence in anime titles nominated by the industry, Though it was held only once in 2006, 141 anime productions have also been nominated and won awards not exclusively for anime, like the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature or the Golden Bear. Global popularity and cultural impact. See also, Japanese pop culture in the United States, history of anime in the United States, Japanese influence on Chinese culture, Japanese influence on Korean culture, anime and hip-hop, and list of highest-grossing anime films. Anime Expo in Los Angeles, California, United States, one of the largest fan conventions in the Western world, 154. Anime has become commercially profitable in the Western world, 155, 156, 157, as demonstrated by early commercially successful Western adaptations of anime, such as Astro Boy and Speed Racer. Early American adaptations in the 1960s made Japan expand into the continental European market, first with productions aimed at European and Japanese children, such as Heidi, Vicky the Viking and Baba Papa, which aired in various countries. Italy, Spain, and France, 158, 159, developed a particular interest in Japan's output due to its cheap selling price and productive output. As of 2014, Italy imported the most anime outside Japan, 160. Anime and manga were introduced to France in the late 1970s and became massively popular in spite of a moral panic led by French politicians in the 1980s and 1990s, 161. These mass imports influenced anime's popularity in East Asian, 162, 163, 164, Southeast Asian, 165, South Asian, 166, 167, Latin American, 168, 169, Arabic, 170, 171, Israeli, 172, and German markets, 173. The beginning of 1980 saw the introduction of Japanese anime series into the American market, 174. In the 1990s, Japanese animation slowly gained popularity in the United States, as media companies such as Viz and Mix began publishing and releasing animated works into the American market, 175. The 1988 film Akira is largely credited with popularizing anime in the Western world during the early 1990s, before anime was further popularized by television shows such as Pokémon and Dragon Ball Z in the latter part of the decade, 176, 177. By 1997, Japanese anime was the fastest-growing genre in the American video industry, 178. The growth of the Internet later provided international audiences with an easy way to access Japanese content, 120. Early on, online piracy played a major role in this. Through over time, legal alternatives appeared, which significantly reduced illegal practices, 179. Since the 2010s, streaming services have become increasingly involved in the production, licensing, and distribution of anime for international markets, 180, 181. This is especially the case with net services such as Netflix, Crunchyroll, and others which have large catalogs in many countries, although until 2020, anime fans in multiple developing countries had fewer options for obtaining access to legal content, and therefore would still turn to online piracy. 182, 183. However, beginning with the 2020s, anime has been experiencing yet another boom in global popularity and demand due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, HBO Max, Disney+, Hulu, and anime-only services like Crunchyroll and HiDive, increasing the international availability of the amount of newly licensed anime shows, as well as the size of their catalogs, 184, 185, 186, 187, 188. Netflix reported that between October 2019 and September 2020, more than 100 million member households worldwide had watched at least one anime title on the platform. Anime titles appeared on the streaming platform's top 10 lists in almost 100 countries within the one-year period. 189. By 2025, Netflix reported that more than 150 million member households, representing an estimated 300 million viewers, commonly watched anime on the platform. 190. Anime is no longer niche. It's mainstream. Netflix Incorporated. 191. As of 2021, anime series are the most demanded foreign language television shows in the United States, accounting for 30.5% of the market share. In comparison, Spanish language and Korean language shows account for 21% and 11% of the market share, respectively. 192. In 2021, more than half of Netflix's global members watched anime. 193, 194. In 2022, the anime series Attack on Titan won the award for Most In-Demand TV Series in the World 2021 in the Global TV Demand Awards. Attack on Titan became the first-ever non-English language series to earn the title of World's Most In-Demand TV Show, previously held by only The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. 50. 195. In 2024, the anime series Jujutsu Kaisen won the award of Most In-Demand TV Series in the World 2023 in the Global TV Demand Awards. 196. Rising interest in anime as well as Japanese video games has led to an increase of university students in the United Kingdom aspiring to get a degree in the Japanese language. 197. The word anime, alongside other Japanese pop cultural terms like shonen, shoujo, and isekai, have been added to the Oxford English Dictionary. 198, 199. Various anime and manga series have influenced Hollywood in the making of numerous famous movies and characters. 200. Hollywood itself has produced live-action adaptations of various anime series such as Ghost in the Shell, Death Note, Dragon Ball, and Cowboy Bebop. However, most of these adaptations have been received negatively by both critics and audiences and became box office bombs. The primary reasons for the unsuccessfulness of Hollywood's adaptations of anime are due to change of plot and characters from the original source material and the limited capabilities a live-action movie or series has in comparison to an animated counterpart. 201, 202. One of the few particular exceptions to this trend is Alita: Battle Angel, which became a moderate commercial success and received generally positive reviews from both critics and audiences for its visual effects and faithfulness to the source material. The movie grossed $404 million worldwide, making it director Robert Rodriguez's highest-grossing film. 203, 204. Anime has significantly influenced fashion by blending bold visual storytelling with distinctive character aesthetics, inspiring everything from streetwear and cosplay culture to high-fashion collaborations. 205. Anime and manga, alongside many other imports of Japanese pop culture, have helped build a positive worldwide image toward Japan and improve its relations with other countries. 206, 207, 208. In 2015, during remarks welcoming Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to the White House, President Barack Obama thanked Japan for its cultural contributions to the United States by saying, "This visit is a celebration of the ties of friendship and family that bind our peoples. I first felt it when I was 6 years old when my mother took me to Japan. I felt it growing up in Hawaii, like communities across our country, home to so many proud Japanese Americans." Today is also a chance for Americans, especially our young people, to say thank you for all the things we love from Japan. Like karate and karaoke, manga and anime, and, of course, emojis. 209. In July 2020, after the approval of a Chilean government project in which citizens of Chile would be allowed to withdraw up to 10% of their privately held retirement savings, journalist Pamela Giles celebrated by running through Congress with her arms spread out behind her, imitating the move of many characters of the manga and anime series Naruto. 210, 211. In April 2021, Peruvian politicians Jorge Hugo Romero of the PPC and Milagros Juarez of the UPP cosplayed as anime characters to get the Otaku vote. 212. On October 28, 2024, the Vatican unveiled its own anime-styled mascot, Luz, in order to connect with Catholic youth through pop culture. 213. In April 2023, the Japan Business Federation laid out a proposal aiming to spur the economic growth of Japan by further promoting the contents industry abroad, primarily anime, manga and video games, for measures to invite industry experts from abroad to come to Japan to work, and to link with the tourism sector to help foreign fans of manga and anime visit sites across the country associated with particular manga stories. The Federation seeks on quadrupling the sales of Japanese content in overseas markets within the upcoming 10 years. 214, 215. A 2018 survey conducted in 20 countries and territories using a sample consisting of 6,600 respondents held by Dentsu revealed that 34% of all surveyed people found excellency in anime and manga more than other Japanese cultural or technological aspects, which makes this mass Japanese media the third most liked, Japanese din, below Japanese cuisine, 34.6%, and Japanese robotics, 35.1%. The advertisement company views anime as a profitable tool for marketing campaigns in foreign countries due to its popularity and reception. 216. Anime plays a role in driving tourism to Japan. In surveys held by Statista between 2019 and 2020, 24.2% of tourists from the United States, 7.7% of tourists from China, and 6.1% of tourists from South Korea said they were motivated to visit Japan because of Japanese popular culture. 217. In a 2021 survey held by Crunchyroll Market Research, 94% of Gen Z and 73% of the general population said that they were familiar with anime. 218, 219. Fan response. See also, anime and manga fandom, anime and manga fandom in Poland, ACG, subculture, and list of anime conventions. Cosplay of Madoka Kanane and Kyubi from Puella Magi Madoka Magica during the TRACON 2013 event at the Tampere Hall in Tampere, Finland. Anime clubs gave rise to anime conventions in the 1990s with the anime boom, a period marked by anime's increased global popularity. 220. These conventions are dedicated to anime and manga and include elements like cosplay contests and industry talk panels. 221. Cosplay, a portmanteau of costume play, is not unique to anime and has become popular in contests and masquerades at anime conventions. 222. Japanese culture and words have entered English usage through the popularity of the medium, including otaku, an unflattering Japanese term commonly used in English to denote an obsessive fan of anime or manga. 223. Another word that has arisen describing obsessive fans in the United States is Wapanese, referring to white individuals who want to be Japanese, or later known as weebo or weeb, individuals who demonstrate an obsession with Japanese anime, a term that originated from abusive content posted on the website 4chan.org. 224, while originally derogatory, the terms hotaku and weep have been reappropriated by the anime fandom over time and today are used by some fans to refer to themselves in a comedic and more positive way. 225. Anime enthusiasts have produced fan fiction and fan art, including computer wallpapers and anime music videos, AMVs. 226. Many fans visit sites depicted in anime, games, manga, and other forms of otaku culture. This behavior is known as anime pilgrimage. 227. By the 2020s, anime had firmly established itself as a major global cultural force, resonating with audiences far beyond its origins in Japan. Over half of Generation Z worldwide identified as anime fans, reflecting the medium's widespread appeal across cultures and languages. The growing international enthusiasm for anime has been attributed to its emotional depth, distinctive visual style, and ability to explore universal themes such as identity, friendship, and perseverance. Its influence can be seen in global entertainment, fashion, and online communities, demonstrating how anime has evolved from a regional art form into a defining element of modern pop culture. As of the 2020s, many anime fans and followers use social media platforms and other sites like YouTube, Bilibili, 230, Twitch, 231, Fandom, 232, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, 233, Tumblr, 234, 4chan, TikTok, and Twitter, 49. With online communities and databases such as IMDb and MyAnimeList to discuss anime, manga, and track their progress watching respective series, as well as using news outlets such as Anime News Network. According to Crunchyroll's research data from 2023 to 2024 provided by its president Rahul Parini, there are approximately 800 million people globally, outside of China and Japan, who are either highly aware of anime, show interest in anime, or currently watch anime and identify as stans. 237, 238, 239. According to a 2024 survey conducted on anime fans by Polygon, 65% of the surveyed anime fans said that they find anime more emotionally compelling than other forms of media and more than 3 in 4 of Millennial and Gen Z fans use the medium as a form of escapism. Almost 2/3 of the anime-watching Gen Z audience said they emotionally connect better with anime than they do with traditional media. Over 50% of surveyed Gen Z anime fans said that anime influences their identity, fashion, and social understanding. 240. Due to anime's increased popularity in the 21st century, a large number of celebrities such as Elon Musk, BTS, and Ariana Grande have stated that they are anime fans. 241. Anime style. Main article, Anime-influenced animation. One of the key points that differentiated anime from a handful of Western cartoons is the potential for visceral content. Once the expectation that the aspects of visual intrigue or animation are just for children is put aside, the audience can realize that themes involving violence, suffering, sexuality, pain, and death can all be storytelling elements utilized in anime just as much as other media. 242. Japanese animation is so different from what airs here. It's far edgier, more adult, and violent. Mike Lazo of the American Cartoon Network, 243. However, as anime itself became increasingly popular, its styling has been inevitably the subject of both satire and serious creative productions. 15. South Park's Jinpakumen, Han, Good Times with Weapons episodes, Adult Swim's Perfect Hair Forever, and Nickelodeon's Kappa Mighty are examples of Western satirical depictions of Japanese culture and anime. But anime tropes have also been satirized by some anime such as Konosuba. Traditionally, only Japanese works have been considered anime, but some works have sparked debate about blurring the lines between anime and cartoons, such as the American anime-style productions Avatar, The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, 244. These anime-styled works have become defined as anime-influenced animation, in an attempt to classify all anime-styled works of non-Japanese origin, 245. Some creators of these works cite anime as a source of inspiration, for example the French production team for Oban Star Racers moved to Tokyo to collaborate with the Japanese production team. When anime is defined as a style rather than as a national product, it leaves open the possibility of anime being produced in other countries, 244. But this has been contentious amongst fans, with John Opliger stating, the insistence on referring to original American art as Japanese anime or manga robs the work of its cultural identity. A mystery film is a film that revolves around the solution of a problem or a crime. It focuses on the efforts of the detective, private investigator, or amateur sleuth to solve the mysterious circumstances of an issue by means of clues, investigation, and clever deduction. Mystery films include, but are not limited to, films in the genre of detective fiction. While cinema featured characters such as Sherlock Holmes in the early 1900s, several other Sherlock Holmes-like characters appeared such as Boston Blackie and the Lone Wolf. Several series of mystery films started in the 1930s with major studios featuring detectives like Nick and Nora Charles, Perry Mason, Nancy Drew and Charlie Chan. While original mystery film series were based on novels, by the 1940s many were sourced from comics and radio series. Towards the 1940s these series were predominantly produced as B-movies, with nearly no mystery series being developed by the 1950s. Around the 2020s a wave of popular theatrical straight mystery films were released theatrically including Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express, 2017, and Rian Johnson's Knives Out, 2019, as well as on streaming services with The Parodic Murder Mystery, 2019, starring Adam Sandler. Definition and characteristics. Mystery films mainly focus on a crime or a puzzle, usually a murder, which must then be solved by policemen, private detectives, or amateur sleuths. The viewer is presented with a series of suspects who have a motive to commit the crime but did not actually do it, and whom the investigator must eliminate during the course of the investigation. At times the viewer is presented with information not available to the main character. The central character usually explores the unsolved crime, unmasks the perpetrator, and puts an end to the effects of the villainy. 1. During the early 20th century, there was substantial overlap between the genres of detective film and horror film, and the term mystery was used to encompass both. 2. History. The works of Arthur Conan Doyle were often adapted to the screen in early cinema, specifically with Sherlock Holmes such as Sherlock Holmes' Baffle, 1900. Gary Don Rhodes wrote that the large volume of detective films released in the 1910s either owed to Sherlock Holmes, but that contemporary reviews such as that of Moving Picture World in 1911 bemoaned the lack of a proper Sherlock Holmes adaptation in Dr. Doyle's finished style. 3. By 1915 BC, the same trade paper stated that, strange as it may seem, the story of crime mystery is fast degenerating into one of stock properties. 3. There were several mystery and detective films produced during the silent film era, including numerous films involving Sherlock Holmes, Boston Blackie, and the Lone Wolf. 4. Mystery and detective films were among the most popular genres of the silent film era. This ranged to American, British, German and Danish adaptations of Sherlock Holmes and European series like Nick Carter, Nat Pinkerton and Miss Nobody. 5. With the beginning of sound film, mystery film series came into their own with Philo Vance in the 1929 film The Canary Murder Case. A series of films continued in until 1947. 4. Other series followed, such as Charlie Chan, which began in 1931 and ended in 1949 with 44 films produced. 4. In the 1930s, most of the major Hollywood film studios produced mystery series, with MGM having Nick and Nora Charles and Joel and Garda Sloan, Warner Brothers having Perry Mason, Torchy Blaine, Brass Bancroft, and Nancy Drew. Universal had Bill Crane, while Fox had Charlie Chan and Mr. Moto. 6. Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes. American mystery film series of the 1930s predominantly relied on mystery literature for inspiration. About every character from the 1930s drew from literature, such as Charlie Chan, Nick and Nora Charles, Thatcher Colt, Perry Mason, and Mr. Wong. The 1930s featured many female detectives of various ages, from Nancy Drew, Torchy Blaine, and Hildegard Withers, while the 1940s had none. 7. Productions in the 1930s were occasionally A-budget pictures, such as The Black Camel, 1931, Arsène Lupin, 1932, and The Thin Man, 1934. 6. By the 1940s, film detectives came from multiple sources, such as radio and comic strips, and many others had original scripts. 7. MGM, Warner Brothers, and Paramount had generally halted their production of mystery films by 1942, leaving production to these films being made by RKO, Columbia, Universal, and other more minor studios. 6. This led to what author Ron Bakker described as 1940s mystery films as being almost always B productions, with actors who were past their prime. 6. These included Chester Morris as Boston Blackie, Warner Baxter as the crime doctor, Warren William as the lone wolf, and Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes. 4. These smaller budget films led to more major productions, such as John Huston's The Maltese Falcon, 1941, while Murder, by Sweet, 1944, introduced the character Philip Marlowe to film. Marlowe would appear again in The Big Sleep, 1946, while other films author Martin Rubin deemed as notable detective mysteries included Laura, 1944. 8. These detective films drew upon thriller and thriller-related genres with their nocturnal atmosphere and style influenced by Expressionism. 8. They often overlapped with film noir, which arose in the mid-1940s and was coined by French critics in 1946. 9. The style was not acknowledged by American filmmakers, critics, or audiences while these films were being developed until the 1970s. 10. Mystery film series disappeared by the 1950s. 6. With the exception of Miss Marple films in the 1960s, it was rare to find films with a female lead that had any sequels. 7. Brand Nickel found that the more traditional, coup puzzle mystery was well served by 1960s and 70s film adaptations like The Alphabet Murders, 1965, Murder on the Orient Express, 1974, and Death on the Nile, 1978. The decades following it left mystery adaptations to be made for television as the default home of sumptuous Golden Age adaptations. 11. Manga, Japanese, IPA, manga, A, are comics or graphic novels originating from Japan. 1. Most manga conform to a style developed in Japan in the late 19th century. 2. And the form has a long history in earlier Japanese art. 3. The term manga is used in Japan to refer to both comics and cartooning. Outside of Japan, the word is typically used to refer to comics originally published in Japan. In Japan, people of all ages and walks of life read manga. The medium includes works in a broad range of genres: action, adventure, business and commerce, comedy, detective, drama, historical, horror, mystery, romance, science fiction and fantasy, erotica, hentai and eki, sports and games, and suspense, among others. 4. 5. Many manga are translated into other languages. 6. 7. Since the 1950s, manga has become an increasingly major part of the Japanese publishing industry. 8. By 1995, the manga market in Japan was valued at 586.4 billion yen, 6 to 7 billion US dollars, 9, with annual sales of 1.9 billion manga books and manga magazines, also known as manga anthologies, in Japan, equivalent to 15 issues per person. 10. The domestic manga market in Japan remained in the 400 billion yen range annually from 2014 to 2019. In 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic led to increased time spent at home, the market rapidly expanded to 612.6 billion yen. Growth continued even after the end of lockdowns, reaching a record high of 704.3 billion yen in 2024. Alongside this rapid expansion, the print manga market has continued to shrink. As of 2024, digital manga accounts for approximately 500 billion yen, while print manga makes up about 200 billion. 11. Manga have also gained a significant worldwide readership. 12, 13, 14, 15. Beginning with the late 2010s, manga started massively outselling American comics. 16. As of 2021, the top 4 comics publishers in the world are manga publishers Shosha, Kodansha, Kadokawa, and Shogakukan. 17. In 2020, the North American manga market was valued at almost $250 million. 18. According to NPD Bookscan, manga made up 76% of overall comics and graphic novel sales in the U.S. in 2021. 19. The fast growth of the North American manga market is attributed to manga's wide availability on digital reading apps, book retailer chains such as Barnes & Noble, and online retailers such as Amazon, as well as the increased streaming of anime. 20, 21, 22. Manga represented 38% of the French comics market in 2005. 23. This is equivalent to approximately 3 times that of the United States and was valued at about 460 million euros, $640 million. 24. In Europe and the Middle East, the market was valued at $250 million in 2012. 25. Manga stories are typically printed in black and white due to time constraints, artistic reasons, as coloring could lessen the impact of the artwork. 26. And to keep printing costs low. 27. Although some full-color manga exist, e.g., colorful. In Japan, manga are usually serialized in large manga magazines, often containing many stories, each presented in a single episode to be continued in the next issue. A single manga story is almost always longer than a single issue from a Western comic. 28. Collected chapters are usually republished in tankobon volumes, frequently but not exclusively paperback books. 29. A manga artist, mangaka in Japanese, typically works with a few assistants in a small studio and is associated with a creative editor from a commercial publishing company. 30. If a manga series is popular enough, it may be animated after or during its run. 31. Sometimes, manga are based on previous live-action or animated films. 32. Manga-influenced comics, among original works, exist in other parts of the world, particularly in those places that speak Chinese, manhwa, Korean, manhwa, English, oel manga, and French, manfra, as well as in the nation of Algeria, DZ manga. 33, 34. Etymology. The kanji for manga, from the preface to Shirji no Yukikai, 1798. The word manga comes from the Japanese word 35, katakana, hiragana, composed of the two kanji, man, meaning whimsical or impromptu, and ga, meaning pictures, 36, 37. The same term is the root of the Korean word for comics, manhwa, and the Chinese word manhwa, 38. The word first came into common usage in the late 18th century, 39, with the publication of such works as Santo Kaiden's picture book Shuji no Yukikai, 1798, 40, 36, and in the early 19th century with such works as Eikawa Menwa's manga Hyakujo, 1814, and the celebrated Hokusai manga books, 1814 to 1834, 41. Containing assorted drawings from the sketchbooks of the famous ukiyo-e artist Hokusai, 42, where Kuden Kitazawa, 1876 to 1955, first used the word manga in the modern sense, 43. In Japanese, manga refers to all kinds of cartooning, comics, and animation. Among English speakers, manga has the stricter meaning of Japanese comics, in parallel to the usage of anime in and outside Japan. The term honey manga is used to describe comics produced from animation cells, 44. History and characteristics. Main articles, History of manga and manga iconography. See also, Kibyoushi and Kamishibai. A Kamishibai storyteller from Seizi-san by Michiko Hasegawa. Seizi appears with her hair in a bun. Hokusai manga depicting self-defense techniques, early 19th century. Manga originated from a Makemono, scrolls, Chojujin Butsugiga, dating back to the 12th century, 45, 46, during the Edo period, 1603 to 1867, a book of drawings titled Toba Ihan further developed what would later be called manga, 45, 46. The word itself first came into common usage in 1798, 39, with the publication of works such as Santo Kaiden's picture book Shuji no Yukikai, 1798, 40, 36, and in the early 19th century with such works as Eikawa Menwa's manga Hyakujo, 1814, and the Hokusai manga books, 1814 to 1834, 42, 47. Adam L. Curran has suggested that Kibyoshi, picture books from the late 18th century, may have been the world's first comic books. These graphical narratives share with modern manga humorous, satirical, and romantic themes. 48. Some works were mass-produced as serials using woodblock printing. 10. However, Eastern comics are generally held separate from the evolution of Western comics. Western comic art probably originated in 17th century Italy. 49. Writers on manga history have described two broad and complementary processes shaping modern manga. One view represented by other writers such as Frederick L. Schott, Kinko Ito, and Adam L. Curran, stress continuity of Japanese cultural and aesthetic traditions, including pre-war, Meiji, and pre-Meiji culture and art. 50. The other view emphasizes events occurring during and after the Allied occupation of Japan, 1945 to 1952, and stresses U.S. cultural influences, including U.S. comics, brought to Japan by the GIs, and images and themes from U.S. television, film, and cartoons, especially Disney. 51. Regardless of its source, an explosion of artistic creativity occurred in the post-war period, 52, involving manga artists such as Osamu Tezuka, Astro Boy, and Michiko Hasegawa, Seizi-san. Astro Boy quickly became, and remains, immensely popular in Japan and elsewhere, 53, and the anime adaptation of Seizi-san drew more viewers than any other anime on Japanese television in 2011, 45. Tezuka and Hasegawa both made stylistic innovations in Tezuka's cinematographic technique. The panels are like a motion picture that reveals details of action bordering on slow motion as well as rapid zooms from distance to close-up shots. This kind of visual dynamism was widely adopted by later manga artists. 54. Hasegawa's focus on daily life and women's experience also came to characterize later shoujo manga. 55. Between 1950 and 1969, an increasingly large readership for manga emerged in Japan with the solidification of its two main marketing genres: shonen manga aimed at boys and shoujo manga aimed at girls. 56. In 1969, a group of female manga artists, later called the Year 24 Group, also known as Magnificent 24s, made their shoujo manga debut. Year 24 comes from the Japanese name for the year 1949, the birth year of many of these artists. 57. The group included Moto Hagio, Ryoko Ikeda, Yumiko Oshima, Keiko Takamiya, and Ryoko Yamagishi. 29. Thereafter, primarily female manga artists would draw shoujo for a readership of girls and young women. 58. In the following decades, 1975, present, shoujo manga continued to develop stylistically while simultaneously evolving different but overlapping subgenres. 59. Major subgenres include romance, superheroines, and ladies' comics, in Japanese, Redisu, Redikomi, and Josei. 60. Modern shoujo manga romance features love as a major theme set into emotionally intense narratives of self-realization. 61. With the superheroines, shoujo manga saw releases such as Pink Hanamori's Mermaid Melody Peachy Peachy Pitch, Reiko Yoshida's Tokyo Mew Mew, and Naoko Takeuchi's Pretty Soldier Sailor Moon, which became internationally popular in both manga and anime formats. 62. Groups, or sentai, of girls working together have also been popular within this genre. Like Lucia, Hanan, and Rina singing together, and Sailor Moon, Sailor Mercury, Sailor Mars, Sailor Jupiter, and Sailor Venus working together. 63. Manga for male readers subdivides according to the age of its intended readership: boys up to 18 years old, shonen manga, and young men 18 to 30 years old, seinen manga, wink with a frown. 64, as well as by content, including action-adventure often involving male heroes, slapstick humor, themes of honor, and sometimes explicit sex. 65. The Japanese use different kanji for two closely allied meanings of seinen, for youth, young man, and for adult, majority, the second referring to pornographic manga aimed at grown men and also called seijin, adult, manga. 66. Shonen, seinen, and seijin manga share a number of features in common. Boys and young men became some of the earliest readers of manga after World War II. From the 1950s on, shonen manga focused on topics thought to interest the archetypal boy, including subjects like robots, space travel, and heroic action-adventure. 67. Popular themes include science fiction, technology, sports, and supernatural settings. Manga with solitary costumes superheroes like Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man generally did not become as popular. 68. The role of girls and women in manga produced for male readers has evolved considerably over time to include those featuring single pretty girls, bishoujo. 69, such as Belle Dandy from Oh My Goddess, stories where such girls and women surround the hero, as in Negima and Hanakio made team, or groups of heavily armed female warriors, Sento Bishoujo. 70. By the turn of the 21st century, manga achieved worldwide popularity. Gekiga such as Sanpei Shirato's 1959-1962 Chronicles of a Ninja's Military Accomplishments, Ninja Bujicho, arose in the late 1950s and 1960s. partly from left-wing student and working-class political activism, 75, and partly from the aesthetic dissatisfaction of young manga artists like Yoshihiro Tatsumi with existing manga. In Japan, manga constituted an annual 40.6 billion yen, approximately $395 million, publication industry by 2007, 78. In 2006, sales of manga books made up for about 27% of total book sales, and sale of manga magazines for 20% of total magazine sales, 79. The manga industry has expanded worldwide, where distribution companies license and reprint manga into their native languages. Marketeers primarily classify manga by the age and gender of the target readership, 80. In particular, books and magazines sold to boys, shounen, and girls, shoujo, have distinctive cover art, and most bookstores place them on different shelves. Due to cross-readership, consumer response is not limited by demographics. For example, male readers may subscribe to a series intended for female readers, and so on. Japan has manga cafes, or manga kissa. Kissa is an abbreviation of kissaten. At a manga kissa, people drink coffee, read manga, and sometimes stay overnight. Manga magazines or anthologies, manga zashi, usually have many series running concurrently with approximately 20 to 40 pages allocated to each series per issue. Other magazines such as the anime fandom magazine New Type featured single chapters within their monthly periodicals. Other magazines like Nakayoshi feature many stories written by many different artists. These magazines, or anthology magazines, as they are also known, colloquially, phone books, are usually printed on low-quality newsprint and can be anywhere from 200 to more than 850 pages thick. Manga magazines also contain one-shot comics and various four-panel yankoma, equivalent to comic strips. Manga series can run for many years if they are successful. Popular shonen magazines include Weekly Shonen Jump, Weekly Shonen Magazine, and Weekly Shonen Sunday. Popular shoujo manga include Chow, Nakayoshi, and Ribbon. Manga artists sometimes start out with a few one-shot manga projects just to try to get their name out. If these are successful and receive good reviews, they are continued. Magazines often have a short life, 83. After a series has run for a while, publishers often collect the chapters and print them in dedicated book-sized volumes, called tankobon. These can be hardcover, or more usually softcover books, and are the equivalent of U.S. trade paperbacks or graphic novels. These volumes often use higher quality paper, and are useful to those who want to catch up with a series so they can follow it in the magazines, or if they find the cost of the weeklies or monthlies to be prohibitive. Deluxe versions have also been printed as readers have gotten older and the need for something special grew. Old manga have also been reprinted using somewhat lesser quality paper and sold for 100 yen, about $1 US, each to compete with the used book market. History. Kanagaki Robin and Kawanebe Kyosai created the first manga magazine in 1874, Ashinbon Nipponchi. The magazine was heavily influenced by Japan Punch, founded in 1862 by Charles Workman, a British cartoonist. Ashinbon Nipponchi had a very simple style of drawings and did not become popular with many people. Ashinbon Nipponchi ended after 3 issues. The magazine Kisho Shimbun in 1875 was inspired by Ashinbon Nipponchi, which was followed by Maramaru Shinbun in 1877, and then Girakuta Chinpo in 1879. 84. Shonen Sekai was the first shonen magazine created in 1895 by Iwaya Sazanami, a famous writer of Japanese children's literature back then. Shonen Sekai had a strong focus on the First Sino-Japanese War, 85. In 1905, The manga magazine publishing boom started with the Russo-Japanese War, 86. Tokyo Pako was created and became a huge hit, 87. After Tokyo Pako in 1905, a female version of Shonen Sekai was created and named Shoujo Sekai, considered the first shoujo magazine, 88. Shonen Pako was made and is considered the first children's manga magazine. The children's demographic was in an early stage of development in the Meiji period. Shonen Pako was influenced from foreign children's magazines such as Puck, which an employee of Jitsugyo no Nihon, publisher of the magazine, saw and decided to emulate. In 1924, Kodomo Pako was launched as another children's manga magazine after Shonen Pako, 87. During the boom, Poten, derived from the French potin, was published in 1908. All the pages were in full color with influences from Tokyo Pako and Osaka Puck. It is unknown if there were any more issues besides the first one, 86. Kodomo Pako was launched May 1924 by Tokyo Sha and featured high-quality art by many members of the manga artistry like Takei Takao, Takahisa Yumeji, and Aso Yutaka. Some of the manga featured speech balloons, where other manga from the previous eras did not use speech balloons and were silent, 87. Published from May 1935 to January 1941, Manga no Kuni coincided with the period of the Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937 to 1945. Manga no Kuni featured information on becoming a mangaka and on other comics industries around the world. Manga no Kuni handed its title to Sashi Manga Kenkyu in August 1940. Doujinshi, produced by small publishers outside of the mainstream commercial market, resemble in their publishing small press independently published comic books in the United States. Comiket, the largest comic book convention in the world with around 500,000 visitors gathering over 3 days, is devoted to doujinshi. While they most often contain original stories, many are parodies of or include characters from popular manga and anime series. Some doujinshi continue with a series story or write an entirely new one using its characters, much like fan fiction. In 2007, doujinshi sales amounted to 27.73 billion yen, $245 million, 78. In 2006 they represented about a tenth of manga books and magazines sales, 79. Digital manga. Thanks to the advent of the internet, there have been new ways for aspiring mangaka to upload and sell their manga online. Before, there were two main ways in which a mangaka's work could be published: taking their manga drawn on paper to a publisher themselves, or submitting their work to competitions run by magazines. 90. Web manga. In recent years, there has been a rise in manga released digitally. Web manga, as it is known in Japan, has seen an increase thanks in part to image hosting websites where anyone can upload pages from their works for free. Although released digitally, almost all web manga sticks to the conventional black and white format despite some never getting physical publication. Pixiv is the most popular site where amateur and professional work gets published on the site. It has grown to be the most visited site for artwork in Japan. 91. Twitter has also become a popular place for web manga, with many artists releasing pages weekly on their accounts in the hope of their work getting picked up or published professionally. One of the best examples of an amateur work becoming professional is One Punch Man, which was released online and later received a professional remake released digitally and an anime adaptation soon thereafter. 92. Many of the big print publishers have also released digital-only magazines and websites where web manga get published alongside their serialized magazines. Shogakukan, for instance, has two websites, Sunday Webry and Yura Sunday, that release weekly chapters for web manga and even offer contests for mangaka to submit their work. Both Sunday Webry and Yura Sunday have become one of the top web manga sites in Japan, 93, 94. Some have even released apps that teach how to draw professional manga and learn how to create them. Weekly Shonen Jump released Jump Paint, an app that guides users on how to make their own manga from making storyboards to digitally inking lines. It also offers more than 120 types of pen tips and more than 1,000 screen tones for artists to practice. 90. Kodansha has also used the popularity of web manga to launch more series and also offer better distribution of their officially translated works under Kodansha Comics, thanks in part to the titles being released digitally first before being published physically. The reading direction in a traditional manga. Traditionally, manga stories flow from top to bottom and from right to left. Some publishers have translated manga keep to this original format. Other publishers mirror the pages horizontally before printing the translation, changing the reading direction to a more Western, left to right, so as not to confuse foreign readers or traditional comics consumers. This practice is known as flipping. 103. For the most part, criticism suggests that flipping goes against the original intentions of the creator. For example, if a person wears a shirt that reads "May" on it and gets flipped, then the word is altered to "YAM," who may be ignorant of how awkward it is to read comics when the eyes must flow through the pages and text in opposite directions, resulting in an experience that's quite distinct from reading something that flows homogeneously. If the translation is not adapted to the flipped artwork carefully enough, it is also possible for the text to go against the picture, such as a person referring to something on their left in the text while pointing to their right in the graphic. Characters shown writing with their right hands, the majority of them, would become left-handed when a series is flipped. Flipping may also cause oddities with familiar asymmetrical objects or layouts, such as a car being depicted with the gas pedal on the left and the brake on the right, or a shirt with the buttons on the wrong side. However, these issues are minor when compared to the unnatural reading flow, and some of them could be solved with an adaptation work that goes beyond just translation and blind flipping. Manga has highly influenced the art styles of manhwa and manhwa. 108. Manga in Indonesia is published by Alex Media Computindo, Level Comic, MNC and Gramedia. Manga has influenced Indonesia's original comic industry. Manga in the Philippines were imported from the US and were sold only in specialty stores and in limited copies. The first manga in Filipino language is Doraemon, which was published by J-Line Comics and was then followed by Case Closed, citation needed. In 2015, Boys Love Manga became popular through the introduction of BL Manga by printing company BLAC Kink. Among the first BL titles to be printed were Poster Boy, Tadula, and Sprinters. All were written in Filipino. BL manga have become bestsellers in the top 3 bookstore companies in the Philippines since their introduction in 2015. During the same year, Boys Love Manga have become a popular mainstream with Thai consumers, leading to television series adapted from BL manga stories since 2016. Citation needed. Manga piracy is an increasing problem in Asia which affects many publishers. This has led to the Japanese government taking legal action against multiple operators of pirate websites. 109. Manga has become increasingly popular in Southeast Asia, being one of the main assets of Japan's soft power in the region. 110. Since the start of the 2020s, the sales of manga have also significantly increased in India.